This much seems obvious to me. If you remain shut inside your home indefinitely and you only emerge for brief moments fully masked just to go to the grocery store, you're probably not going to get sick. You'll also be living a kind of dreary life, not a life that I want to live, but that's my own perspective. And who cares what my perspective is? You can live that life if you want to. You are free to be a reclusive hypochondriac if that's the sort of existence that you prefer. The point is that there's no reason to require the same existence of everyone. Even if all the rest of us are running around, coughing in each other's faces, kissing strangers on the mouth, whatever it is, you will be safe, shut in your home, sheltered from the germ orgy that's happening out there. So you don't need to worry about it. So why not make this our reopening strategy? Another term for this strategy is personal responsibility. Also liberty. It's the strategy we've employed for most other diseases, most of the time. If you're very fearful of this disease, it doesn't matter if anyone else thinks that your fear is overblown or justified. And I think that's where a lot of the tension and the argument and the division is coming from, where we think that we have our opinion of this disease and the threat that it poses, and we think that everyone else has to feel the same way about it. They don't. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. At least they shouldn't have to feel the same way. If you're fearful of it, you have your reasons, great. Well, not great. I mean, I'm sorry that you're fearful, but you can live accordingly. You're entitled to your fear. You're entitled to whatever strategies you put in place for its sake, but your fear is not entitled to dictate my life. That's the point. Now, I know you can dream up scenarios where even if you're locked in your house, someone can get you sick. And someone today told me that, or yesterday when I was talking about this, someone said, oh, well, that's the old canard of, well, that's great for you, but your choices might kill my parents. And I said, how are my choices going to kill your parents? If I'm out doing my thing and they're shut in their house because they want to shelter in place, and it seems like how could I have any effect on them? The only way I could have any effect on them is if they choose to go out and participate in society. And if they choose that, then they choose to take on the risk, and that's it. And then I was told, well, you could get a mail carrier sick, and then he could deliver mail to my parents, and the virus could get on the mail, and my parents could touch the mail and then get sick. Okay. That's how extreme, that's how tortured people are getting in trying to explain how or why everybody has to stay locked in their home. Because you might get a mail carrier sick who somehow transmits the virus by mail to someone who's locked in their home. I mean, come on. The other argument I've heard a lot in the last couple of days is that if we're going to take this approach of everyone, assess their own risk level and live accordingly, then by that logic, well, it almost seems like you're saying we shouldn't have seatbelt laws or we shouldn't have smoking bans. And actually, funnily enough, yes, that's how I feel. And that's actually a great comparison. I think the seatbelt law comparison is very good. Because let me tell you how I feel about seatbelt laws. I think they're completely ridiculous and nothing but a fundraising mechanism for the state. There is no reason why we need cops going around looking for people that don't have seatbelts on so they can charge them $50 for not having a seatbelt on. If you want to drive down the road without a seatbelt on, that's your choice. It's your risk. You're not putting anybody else at risk. And no problem. You should be able to choose to take on that risk. Except even with that, that's actually a generous comparison for the pro-lockdown side, because at least with seatbelts, although I believe that people should be able to take on that risk if they want to, and there's no reason why we need daddy state out there, daddy police officer out there lecturing us to keep our seatbelts on. But at least there, the science is pretty well established. There's very little controversy that you are safer with seatbelts anyway, most of the time. Now, you could argue if you're going very slow, you get into a fender bender, you might be better off without the seatbelt, because if you have it on, you could get whiplash or something. I don't know. I mean, but generally speaking, you're better off with the seatbelt on. That's pretty well established science. The thing with the lockdown, though, is not only should people have the right to assess their own risk, but it's by no means a foregone conclusion that this lockdown strategy is actually the safest. So it's not just that people aren't being given the right to assess their own risk, but it's that we are being forced to accept the risk assessment of government officials and scientists who are on the government's payroll. We're being forced to accept their assessment when their assessment is, at a minimum, highly controversial. And there's a whole other way of looking at it. So that's the point. But either way, it goes back to, as I said, you can be as scared as you want. Whether your fear is justified or not is not the point, but your fear does not dictate choices in my life, or at least it shouldn't. Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Matt Walsh Show. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down there so you can stay up to date on all of our future content.